Now let's get an update on some breaking news. This is the press conference for Robert Crimo Jr. Let's listen in.
Instead, Robert Crimo Jr., the father, made the reckless and dangerous decision to sponsor his son's FOID application. This wasn't a fishing license. This wasn't a permission slip to go to the museum. This was a permission slip for his son to buy an assault rifle. And when he signed this permission slip, he knew exactly how dangerous it was for this 19-year-old to have a weapon. Earlier this morning, Judge George Strickland accepted a negotiated plea in which Mr. Crimo Jr., the father, admitted guilt to the charge of reckless conduct. He will be placed in jail for 60 days, and he will also serve a period of probation of 2 years. During that time, he cannot have weapons, firearms, or any others, or a FOID card. He will surrender all of those things. He will be subject to the standard rules of probation and be treated the same as other individuals placed on probation. His decision in 2019 to cavalierly cast aside his concerns about his son and to ignore his specific knowledge before sponsoring his son's FOID application endangered lives. That reckless decision enabled the Highland Park July 4th parade shooting, where 7 people were murdered, dozens were injured, and hundreds were traumatized. This reckless conduct case was a new type of prosecution, but we are not facing a new problem in the United States. Mass shootings continue to plague our country, and they continue to be committed by individuals like the shooter in this case, who buy their guns legally and who have no prior criminal history. Only in America do we grapple with an ocean of firearms, and we are drowning in this ocean. The issues intertwined with this abundance of firearms are simply too numerous to count, and we have shed too many tears as a nation. In this specific case, it is evident that the son's challenges and his issues were apparent to his mother, to his brother, his school, his peers, his neighbors, the police department where he lived, and his father. These people possess a deeper understanding of his problems and situation than the government ever could. And when his father sponsored that FOID application, he placed the lives of hundreds in jeopardy. Highland Park and cities, towns, and villages have endured the anguish of mass shootings, and there have been very few parents who have been held accountable for the actions of their children. That era has come to an end. Today, the legal system has found Robert Crimo Jr. bears responsibility for endangering so many, and he himself has agreed that this was a crime. Today, we know the father of the Highland Park shooter will receive punishment for that decision that he made. Parents bear a forceful responsibility for their decisions to allow children access to firearms, especially when they are acutely aware of the potential consequences to themselves and to society. I want to specifically thank Detective Brian Bodden, who is here behind me, of the Highland Park Police Department, for his diligent and detailed work. He brought us the evidence in this case that demonstrated the father's knowledge, and it was no easy task as he looked at evidence over the years. I want to thank you, Brian. I've enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
The Illinois State Police and Director Brian Kelly, who is also here, as Ms. Avalos said, have provided us with every resource we needed, and they have supported this prosecution at every turn. Our victim service specialists, who are also here, have kept hundreds of victims up to date and guided them with compassion and expertise through every court date. Thank you. We are working on this problem. We were right to pass an assault weapon ban in Illinois. State Representative Bob Morgan is behind me, and I thank him as a resident of Highland Park myself for that, as a resident of Illinois. But the work is not yet done. It is our hope that this prosecution has been part of that work. As I mentioned earlier, Catherine, Eduardo, Irina, Kevin, Stephen, Jackie, and Nicholas should all be here. This is not a day to celebrate. It is a day filled with deep emotion for many, but also hope. We hope that by holding this father accountable and by sending him to jail, we are sending a powerful message to others. Reckless decisions like this have consequences, and they are unacceptable. There will be a cost. Justice will have its day. Our hope is that fewer families and fewer communities will ever suffer a tragedy like the Highland Park shooting. I'm happy to take a few questions.
So they said in court that you spent a lot of yesterday talking to victims.
Yes.
And can you detail what that was like and how they feel about this plea then?
Certainly, there were a lot of private conversations. I want to keep those private when it comes to individuals. They were supportive, but obviously are devastated over the loss. Many of them are still dealing with that. Obviously, this case going to trial or planning on going to trial or having a plea today has been difficult for many. They are supportive of this. So many people I talked to talked about wanting to send that message that parents cannot do this.
Was this enough for many of them, or were they disappointed?
This was enough for many of them. Sure, I'm sorry. This was enough for many of them. I don't want to characterize individually. Obviously, we talked to many people, many individuals, almost every individual I personally spoke to, and I probably spoke to about 10, maybe even more, want that message sent. They want the message sent across the country that parents must be held responsible for this. Could the beacon be brighter if he was spending 3 years in prison, which was the max? Possibly. But we've still laid down a beacon. We've laid down a marker to other prosecutors, to other police in this country, to other parents, that they must be held accountable. And the risk of potentially losing in this innovative prosecution and not putting down any marker was too great for our trial team. We have said that we will hold parents accountable, that they should be accountable anywhere in this country for any of their reckless decisions. And this individual having the certainty of jail, having the certainty of punishment, and taking responsibility was so valuable. And I think every victim I talked to agreed with that.
Eric, is it part of the plea agreement that Mr. Cremo will testify as a prosecution witness in his son's trial?
No.
Do you expect him to do that?
I'm not going to comment on that, but it's not part of the plea negotiation it's not part of the plea negotiation.
Mr. Gomez suggested when he spoke just a few minutes ago, he said the state is trying to pit members of the family against each other, and that one of the reasons he agreed to a plea deal was to protect his family. Any thoughts about that?
No comment.
When did the plea negotiations start?
No comment. I'm not going to get into that. That's not going to comment on the timing of the plea negotiations.
Can you talk about what makes this case rare and unique and how you prepared to go to trial and maybe whether or not a plea deal came up in light of how rare and unique it is?
Yeah, the question was about how rare and unique these prosecutions are. I'm aware of a New York case where I believe it was a misdemeanor criminal endangerment. I'm aware of the Crumley case in Michigan. Those cases are all very different than this case. This case has the time period in it where the void card was applied for in 2019, and obviously the Highland Park shooting happened in July of 2022. That did make this case also unique because of that delay. But any parent who is reckless in these decisions isn't going to have any idea when that ticking time bomb will go off. And so in the Crumley's case, it was a matter of days. In the New York case, I believe it was a matter of weeks. This was a matter of years, and we have held him responsible even over that period of years. He will go to jail, he will be on probation, and he has said he is guilty even with that delay. And if it's a shorter delay, you can imagine even more severe consequences. But any parent or anyone else who is reckless in allowing people access to firearms won't know when that ticking time bomb is going to go off. And frankly, this father didn't either. And it was 2.5 years later, but he was still reckless, and he was criminally reckless the moment he submitted that affidavit.
That is Lake County State's Attorney Eric Reinhardt speaking about the plea deal that is going to send Robert Cremo Jr. to jail for 60 days and find him with 2 years probation. He won't be allowed to have any weapons. Of course, his son, Robert Cremo III, is charged in the Highland Park shooting, and the reckless conduct had to do with him signing for his son's FOID card when he was underage, allowing him to get the weapons that he allegedly ended up using in that case, which we will, of course, continue to follow. Charlie Wojciechowski is at the courthouse right now. He is obviously going to be monitoring this press conference. We'll have more from his reporting coming up this afternoon.